It is time once again to start tackling more of this front yard project, and things keep getting more and more interesting here, it seems. I'm going to show you a couple things quick, then we're going to get to aerating. I've done a few passes here just as a test, and I have a plan for today, but we're going to see if I can work that plan or not. It is also possibly looking like I might get a little rain shower here, but we're going to find out on that too. Alright, so you can see this now as this has dried out, and I did water this last night and we got about 1/10 of an inch of rain overnight, but you just got this hard type of soil here up on top. Now once we get through this, let me find an area where I've already broken some of this apart. Here's a good area. You can see as I broke through that, there's just these chunks like this, and they will break when they get moisture in them, but we've got to get through this layer in order to at least attempt to break some of this hard stuff up, and then hopefully I can bring my Ventrac through this. Not only break up the cores so that it's not going to be a bumpy mess, but hopefully maybe get down a little farther and have it bite into that. But I don't know, it's still very, very hard. So that's my plan. At least if I can break up all this, I also have the option of probably going to get some fresh topsoil from a big pile in the back part of my property of some better stuff. But because the irrigation is set to grade pretty much right now, I don't have a lot of room to work with there unless I want to dig out all these heads and kind of reset them. We're just going to work this plan today, and then we'll find out as we go along. So as you can see, that has a variable drive on it, and so you can kind of vary your speed. So that's going to allow you to put more holes in if you're going slower, and obviously if you're going faster, there's going to be more distance in between. But I'm trying to go as slow as I possibly can to just really fracture the soil. And that means that it's bouncing around a lot, and if this were a lot softer, it would not be doing that. Usually when you're using this in the optimal conditions, it just drives through there and you're not bouncing around like it is. But it is breaking up all of this nasty stuff here. So I think I might go grab my Ventrac, and at least I have a pass here that I can test my theory on now and see if I can get it to run through here and break all this up. And if that's going to work, then I'll continue. Otherwise, if it's not going to work, then I got to come up with another plan, and I don't want to go do this whole thing as it is, because it is not too much fun. All the while I'm doing this, I keep thinking about my physical therapist, who is obviously helping with my wrist recovery right now. And he may be watching right now, but he always asks me, have you been using any machines that vibrate a lot, or do anything to your wrist where there's been a lot of vibration or anything? And I'm always like, no, can't think of anything at all. Alright, so it looks like that is going to break things up pretty well here, and I'm going to have enough loose soil to work with that hopefully I can take a drag around here and sort of spread that out without compressing it down too much. I would still like to use the Ventrac. It does such a good job of doing that finishing grade, but here specifically I want to make sure that I don't compress it again too much so that we create another top layer there that ends up the way that it was. But time to get busy here and get the rest of this aerated, and then take the machine through the whole thing, and I'll see where I'm at with dragging it around. Okay, so I've gone through this multiple times now with the Ventrac, and I obviously did the aeration on the whole thing, broke it up really nicely. So I've got all this extra soil here. There's still some clumps in it, but it looks like these will break apart and break down over time. So I do have plenty of soil here to work this around, probably go get a drag and sort of try to smooth this all out after I do my final Ventrac pass, and then maybe let it dry out just a little more. And then I like to use a sand drag. I can show you that, but sometimes when it's clumpy, it does not work well. So we're just gonna see whether or not that's going to be what I use for the final, or if it's going to be smooth enough after all this stuff. That broke up everything that I was concerned about as far as that hard top layer, and I got down below that now, and I've been able to work that soil below that. And so I have a good amount of loose stuff up on top here that hopefully once this is all spread out and I take care of it the way that I should, is going to end up much better than it was in the past. Okay, so a little quick recap here of what has transpired so far. So broke all that stuff apart with the aerator today, then got in there with this power rake on the Ventrac, and I worked it a couple times in those aerator spots, and then I took the depth down more. So I probably was to about 4 inches of depth or so as far as breaking all that up. It's really hard to tell exactly how far down you are, but at least I know I got past that crusty part, got a lot of good loose soil out of there, and then I was able to drag that around and then use the Ventrac as well to re-smooth things out without compressing it down too much. And so I still have a good layer of loose soil on top. However, it is put into place a little better and back to grade a little better than it was. I'm pulling behind me now that sand drag I was talking about, and there are still quite a few clumps in this to where it does bounce around. It's really made for fine material, and it works great when you get all of that stuff off of here and you're dealing with kind of a dusty, loose soil, or sand obviously. But it has helped smooth this out some too, and kind of gives it that nice finish look. So I have a bit of hand raking that I'd like to do, get rid of a few rocks and a few just bigger clumps here and there. I want to work around those irrigation heads to make sure that those are in the right spot and that everything looks good to grade with those. And then it's looking like now, which wasn't in the forecast today until about now, that it might thunderstorm here in a few hours. And so I'm not going to do anything more before that happens to make sure that I don't have a seed washout or I don't need to fix things again. So that's where we'll be for right at this moment. Alright, so I got about half the seed on there now, and I decided that before I do my other pass in the other direction, I was going to drag this in just very lightly, and we'll see how it looks after that. It does need just a bit more smoothing, but honestly, I'm going after more of having some loose soil and some area for it to grow into on this one. I definitely am looking at it and I'm seeing and like, oh, it needs to be smoothed more than it is, but that last process of smoothing a lot of times compresses that top part of the soil in order to get that done, and I'm just trying to avoid that this time. So not worrying about it as much as I normally would, although I am worrying about it, as you can tell, but I just got to let it go and have some more loose soil for it to grow into, and we can fix some of the leveling stuff later, just the little humps and bumps. But it's not bad, it's just a little clumpy yet. So the reason that I chose ryegrass again, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, it's my favorite grass type, and I just loved the look out here before. Obviously, I kind of didn't do what I needed to do over time, let things get out of control, and that's where we ended up. But so first of all, it's my favorite grass type, so I wanted to put this back out here. But second of all, I have this other little Kentucky bluegrass project going over here, and so between this and that's pretty much the only places out front where we have our dogs come out and play, or where we come out and play with them, just because of them being terriers and they like to take off. So we have pretty controlled area here. But if I were to put bluegrass into this, then I'm going to be pretty much waiting for the rest of the season without much traffic on here, or without them being able to come out for the fall season and be out here. And so not only do I want the ryegrass back, but also I want a lawn out here as quickly as I can for them to come out here, hopefully in the fall weather, and enjoy that just like we are going to. So that's kind of part of the plan here. So this is the same perennial ryegrass, and if you notice too, I don't really ever talk about this, but we have an OptiRoot treatment on here. So it's not a coating, it's a treatment, and what that means is that it is treated to just help the seed grow in even quicker. You don't need much help with ryegrass, but specifically that treatment here helps just to make sure you get quick germination, quick rooting into the ground, and so that's a little special extra thing that we have on our ryegrass here. I've been debating, but I think I am just going to roll with it, and I'm not going to cover this seed. And the reason is that within 3 to 5 days, with how much heat we have, it's again extremely hot today. We still have a few more days of that coming before a nice cool down, but I would like to try to get this growing if I can without doing the blankets, without doing any sort of covering or anything, just because it's a lot of extra time, effort, and money to do those blankets for them to come off in 7 days, let's say. So I'm going to roll with this. I don't normally do this. I do like the added extra help with the germination, but last year I did an experiment in a different area and I did not cover anything. I just watered consistently and I had good results there too. It's not like you can't do it. I just prefer to make sure that all of this work that I've done doesn't go and wash away in a storm. But crossing my fingers right now, that's not going to happen. If something changes and it looks like it's going to storm, then I do have the option of still coming out here and getting something on here. But once I start watering, I don't want to walk on it too much again. It's going to start to get muddy. And so that's my plan though. I'm going to try to get this going without any cover this time, because it's at least a couple $100 just to do those blankets just for a very short amount of time, not to mention the work of taking them, putting them on, taking them off, all of that. So rolling the dice. So I put a touch of easy straw around some of these irrigation heads just because they tend to pool right around there, and so that's going to wash out those little areas. So I did put a little bit of easy straw on those spots, but otherwise everything else is just going to stay as is unless we're looking for some kind of major storms coming, which I'm not seeing that right now, but as we know, things could change. Give this a good soaking here this first couple days. Try to keep it wet, not puddling and not running off, but at least pretty wet here while the heat is still going. I should get really quick germination on this with how hot it is outside, how much the soil temps are still high here, and then as I've said many times, we need to watch it closely. But I'm timing this where we've got about 3 or 4 days left of this heat, and then it's supposed to go actually into the 70s. We've even seen some upper 40s at night possibly coming. So that is much more fall-like weather. Now, whether that lasts or not, probably not. We usually have some hot periods here in September in southern Iowa, but you just never know what's going to happen. So yes, you read that correctly. We're on day 7 today, and this is what things are looking like this morning. I got a couple clips, and now I wanted to wait a couple extra days just to show you what things looked like about a week in, and so that's where we're at today. A few spots here and there. I need to adjust some sprinkler things that I was working on yesterday, but there's a couple little dry spots where I didn't get quite as good a germination. The seed is still there, I just need a little more water. And also, once I start mowing this, probably within the next week or so, it's probably going to be growing already to that point. Then anything that's really thin at that point, I will also probably do just a slight overseed on those spots. But this is only day 7, like I said, so all these plants have a lot of time yet to mature. They're all going to put out leaves, as this is a bunch type grass, so they're all going to tiller out, put out a lot of leaves, and it'll get a lot thicker over time. So I only went on about 5 pounds per thousand. That's slightly lighter than I would normally go, but I really wanted to give this some space, some room to breathe there, really grow in some good roots. And so I didn't want to overcrowd anything, so that's where I'm starting here. I had germination on this on day 3, as I said. Soil temps are still high. Got that treatment on this seed to help it really germinate fast, and then ryegrass is just, it's very, very quick to grow in. So excited where we're at right now. Excited to finally get something out here that's green and not look at that mess that was there for this whole summer, basically. And so going into the fall season, lots of stuff to do here to take care of it as best as I can to get it ready for winter, and we'll see how all that goes. But I appreciate you following along on this process and seeing what I've been up to here in this front yard. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.